Welcome to Sun, Sand, and Sold. I'm Josh Tomey here, as always, with David Haber. Mr. Haber, it's lovely to see you.
Always nice to see you as well. And I love your new suit.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will say this is a more subtle iteration of your normal wear. I mean, you've got the dragon
cufflink.
I like that.
Yeah. But I want you to know that I went all out with the sneakers as well.
There is a theme going on here.
Yeah. So here's the theme. We have Mayor Howard Weinberg from City of Aventura.
Very excited to have him on the show.
Politician. I want to show my red, white, and blue for America and government. And so I thought I'd put out a theme, red, white, and blue shoes with blue stars and red, white, and blue shirt.
Speaking of blue, obviously we know that Mayor Weinberg has been behind the Hero Housing Initiative in the city of Aventura, which is really an amazing program. And obviously we know it directly benefits police officers and their families from a housing perspective. Mr. Weinberg is going to let us know more about that during the conversation. But, you know, David, it raises for me the question of why is this not done more often?
And why aren't these ideas thought up by politicians in their thinking futuristically about the work life and having people live where they, live to work and
that live local orientation. We know that people who live in a community are more invested in that community, and that's obvious. We also know we're dealing with an affordable housing crisis.
Big affordable housing crisis.
Talked about it ad nauseum on this program.
In fact, I have to move in with you and Jesse, Lisa and I, because we can't afford to live on Miami Beach anymore.
We're going to speak to Mayor Weinberg about that as well and see if we can
if they can find me a spot up in Aventura.
I was actually going to see if he could send me a police escort to avoid it, but the
that was pretty good for the non-joker of the group.
I'm keeping score again today.
No, you're winning right now.
The reality to me is that, and I hate to say it this way, but this is one of the first instances I've heard of in years of somebody or a political body or figure approaching a problem and coming up with an immediate solution that just seems to make sense at face value. Obviously, we're going to get more details from the mayor today, but is that your experience as well? Because we hear it talked about constantly, but I don't see a lot of solution building.
Yeah, I don't either. I can tell you that I don't know if it was his idea with Related and Mr. Perez, combination of the two, but the idea is not only brilliant, it's easily repeated in every city in the country, in essence.
Well, I'd like to ask him that. I mean, to say, listen, we know Aventura is a city of about 40,000, so we obviously know it doesn't have some of the same challenges.
Where'd you get that number from? You looked it up?
In my reading, in my show prep. When you host a podcast, you do some
I'm sorry,
show prep.
Folks. He does show prep. No wonder why he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and I just make jokes.
So, but we know that obviously that size creates an approachability to programming that might make it simpler than it would be for City of Miami or an equivalently sized city. But I have to imagine a lot of the same philosophy and financial metrics apply. I'd love to hear from Mayor Weinberg about whether there's something unique about Aventura and its ability to make something like that happen.
I think it can happen in the city of Miami Beach. I think it can happen in West Palm Beach. I think it can happen all over the Tri-County area. I don't think it's limited to a smaller city. I don't think it's limited to a denser city. I think it can happen in any one of these jurisdictions if there is a will to have live local, if there is a will to try to tackle the housing crisis, affordable housing.
Right.
And I think we're not going to be the best Tri-County area, the best state, if we can't address affordable housing.
No, it's absolutely, it's an inflection point. And again, I'm excited.
Transportation and housing and wages are the three issues that are facing South Florida that are not going away anytime.
And it's not coincidence that they come up in almost every episode we do, regardless of the subject matter. It
always comes back to that.
It always comes back to that. And to say, how are we going to fix this? And how do we fix it using the resources we have now and not turn this into a 30-year solve? And that's one of the things we often hear about.
Yeah, we talk about transportation being a 30-year solve, but I think the affordable housing crisis can be much a shorter solve. And I think this is one of the ways to do it. And I can't wait for us to get them in here in a couple of moments and get this get this started.
Yeah, and I have to imagine, David, that part of what it's exciting about this is inviting a developer in to the part of that solution building, right? And saying, well, who better than the people who are actually building the buildings to have them come to the table? And I think understanding the way in which that unfolded in Aventura is going to be
and how they incentivize
important.
The developer, what the benefits were for the developer, what the obvious benefits we know are for the city, but how they negotiated that and how they came together in order to create a solution. It's the perfect public-private partnership.
It really is. It really is. And given the fact that it's the holidays, that's clearly a huge gift to the city of Aventura. And I'll use that as a segue before we take a quick break and welcome Mayor Weinberg. Holiday plans, New Year's plans. I've heard maybe down on the Keys, maybe city of Miami. Was there any?
It depends on what Mrs. Haber and Mrs. Tomey decide.
I got it. All right. So we're delegating decision-making authority.
I don't know that we're delegating as much as we're waiting to hear from the bosses.
Sounds like we're resigned to that fact. Well, David.
Well, the name of the boat is Yes Dear, so there's a reason for that.
Appropriate. Well, David and I certainly wish everybody out there a happy holidays and happy New Year.
And a healthy one to all of our listeners, because health comes first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to immediately welcome Mayor Weinberg in because there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack and digest.
I love when you use that word, unpack.
Unpack. Well, it's like a suitcase full of stuff, and we got to take it all out and see what we got.
Okay.
So on that note,
do we ever put it back together, or we just take it out?
No, we just take it back. Somebody else is going to have to clean the room.
Okay.
So let's take our break. You're listening to Sun, Sand, and Soul. Josh Tomey, David Haber. Please join us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Tunes,
Add X,
Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And then Dave,
I like X and Facebook.
The two that David knows. He's dating himself. We'll be right back with Howard Weinberg from the city of Aventura.